There we go. Yeah, because I think Vanita made you host because I had to get Vanita to log in because she made the thing and I wasn't host. And I was like, anyway, enough of that. Right, I will leave you guys to it.
Thank you.
Speak soon.
All right, see you later.
Right, Grace, are you ready, mate?
I am ready, yeah.
Have you got your song picks to hand? Can you remember what you put?
I can bring them up for sure.
Wonderful.
Yes, got them.
Excellent. Right, I'm going to press record.
Oh, sick.
Okay, we are recording. Grace, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. It's a nice early start. Whereabouts are you? It's a nice crisp morning in Essex today. It's quite nice. Where are you?
It's very crisp here. I am in Blackburn, Lancashire, which is my hometown, because we were filming a music video in Manchester a couple of days ago. So I've come home for a couple of days and then I'm going back down to London after this. So
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, Grace, we start the podcast always with the track that you regard as having the greatest ever intro. What you got?
So I chose, this was a very hard decision, by the way.
Everyone says this is the hard one.
Honestly, like, intros are my thing. Like, I've created a whole playlist on Spotify. I love like a euphoric intro, but there is nothing better than Gimme 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 by ABBA. Like, if I hear that at a wedding, I'm on the dance floor instantly. Greatest intro.
It's got that kind of little guitar line at the beginning, which is a little bit misleading sometimes. You just think, oh, what's going on here? And then the minute you get that diddly diddly, it's like pure disco, isn't it? It's so infectious.
Pure disco, and Madonna sampled it as well. And like, it's just, oh, it's so good. Like, that will never just make me want to boogie. It's just so good.
When people talk about Madonna, I think that track gets overlooked. It's hung up, isn't it? And
hung up.
I think it's an absolute banger, that. And like, I think when people look back at Madonna's career, obviously she's got hundreds of hits to pick from, but I think Hung Up is up there. I think it's a real masterpiece and really clever what she's done with that loop as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think when people sort of think about Madonna, they think about her kind of like 80s, like when she was like Madonna huge, like everyone knew about her. And I think, Hung Up was probably one of her later ones, only because I know it because I was born. So it was sort of when I was growing up, that song. But yeah, it's an amazing, incredible like use of a sample, like so good.
Did you have an honourable mention as well? Because you sent me a list over, and there's a few where you've been a bit greedy and you've gone for two rather than one. I'll let you have it. It's all right.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Well, yeah, I mean, I've got so many, but it just made me laugh because Black Skinhead by Kanye West like has an incredible intro to the point where it kind of scares me. And I now set it as my alarm because that will wake me up with a fright.
That's
every
terrifying.
morning. Like, yeah, but I will never like not wake up. I will never miss my alarm with that song. Like, it's the drums and like the bit at the beginning, like right before it kicks off, is like actually petrifying. And my friend that used to live with me used to wake up every morning when it would go off in my room, like just terrifying. But it's so good. So good.
You share the terror with your housemates as well.
Yeah,
That's nice.
Of course. Yeah, sharing's caring,
You know that Kanye's got his own voice waking him up every day, 100%.
100. He is definitely his own ringtone, like text tone even. Yeah, of course.
So what I want to know is when, and I'm really interested when I get to speak to younger people that are in the pop market, because I find it really interesting that when I speak to musicians that kind of had, I would say, the sort of peak of their success in the sort of 90s and early noughties, the way that people listen to music then was way different to how people listen to music now and how they get their music now. And so I'm always intrigued to know that, and I want to ask you, when I look at how my children consume their music and they'll go, oh, I know that song. And I'm like, how do you know that song? On TikTok. And it's like, oh, okay. And so I want to know that things like Spotify playlists and TikTok, when you're making music and essentially the intro, how much of them trends in how people consume their music filter through to your creative process?
It's becoming more and more apparent that I am kind of catering to it. Not necessarily catering, but it's definitely a thought that crosses my mind when I'm writing now more than it used to. But it definitely affects the sort of like focus tracks or the singles. Because I mean, there's always been that thing of like 3 minutes 30 for radio because people get bored. Like it's been like that, and especially for sort of Spotify playlists and stuff, you kind of want something that's going to hit people instantly. But TikTok, it's really, really difficult to write a TikTokable song because it's like you want something that's really relatable most of the time. And I think for me, like as a sad piano singer-songwriter, I'm constantly like, okay, what are the kids gonna like? What are they gonna like feel with me? And so like, especially with the music I've been releasing recently, like I've always just written for myself and things that I enjoy. But I find myself now going, okay, well, which is the radio single and which is the one that we could focus more on TikTok? Like, is there a specific line that we think might go viral? And it kind of takes a little bit of enjoyment out of like creation of music to kind of cater to all these different platforms, but it's just how it's kind of moved on, I guess.
So do you think essentially it's like just trying to get the balance right of like not compromising your art, but also being aware of, look, we want as many people to hear this as possible. And if I have to do that, then, you know, that's kind of part of the process now.
It is that. And I think I always just write for myself. Like I write whatever I'm feeling, and I find it hard to write a song that isn't about me and what I've been through. So I think I will always have that in me. So I'll never kind of steer too far away from it. But yeah, it especially with like things like production, like you do sort of take it into consideration more now than I used to.
Okay. I'm going to take you back, and I'm going to ask you for track 2 to tell me the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please, Grace.
Yeah, so mine is Almost Lover by A Fine Frenzy. And I actually don't know any of their other songs at all. I can't really remember how I came across this song. I think that a girl sang it in a talent show at my school when I was like 14, 15. And I remember being like, whoa. And I went home and listened to it. And it was sort of like, I think at 15, you kind of have like those relationships when you're 11 where you hug each other on the school playground. Like,
you go out with each other for about 4 hours and then break up.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like at the age of 15, that was the point where I like really had like my first like proper love and breakup and heartache. And I heard that song and I just used to play it every night. And I've always loved like Adele and people like that, and they've always like made me feel something, but that was the one that really like made me cry. And yeah, I have this thing where like I would, if I feel sad or I feel like I need to get emotion out, I will just put on my like sad song playlist and just like cry and get it all out of my system, and then I'm good for the rest of the day. It's my morning routine. But I used to do that a lot. I used to just sit and listen to this song and just cry it out, and then I'd be like, right, I can face him at school tomorrow, it'll be fine. But it's a really, really beautiful song, and like I said, I'm not really familiar with any of their other music. It was just a song that really like stuck to me through that kind of period of my life.
I'd never heard it until you sent the list over, and I put it on. I was like, it's a really beautiful record.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm really interested in what you said there, because I like to ask guests that quite a lot. I haven't done it for probably about 100 episodes, but I always used to ask people when they sort of talk about more kind of sort of melancholy songs, like if you're feeling low, do you go and put on like the greatest hits of Steps and just try and lift yourself out of it by listening to something completely ridiculous, or do you just go, no, I'm feeling low, I am going to give this mood the biggest miserable cuddle I can find on Spotify, and just sort of immerse yourself in sad songs. I do, and it's really weird. So many artists that I've spoken to, and you're like, Oh, 100%. I am reaching for miserable music all day long.
Yeah, you've got to, like, I have a playlist called my morning playlist, which sometimes I try and attempt to like put myself in a good mood. It's like good vibrations, like Beach Boys and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes I put it on, I'm like, no, shut up, like you're not helping, I've just got to get it out. So yeah, I created like a sad song playlist and I shared it with like my fans and stuff, and I'm like, whenever you need to cry, there is a song for every possible occasion that could be like hurting your heart. There's something in there for everyone. And yeah, got to get it out.
So Grace, where was growing up?
So growing up was Blackburn, Lancashire. Always, actually, the house that I'm in now, I've lived here since I was born. And it's like nice, like countryside. And yeah, I moved out of here when I was 19. Went down to London, as we all do as musicians.
Apparently, the streets are paved with gold down there, from what I've been told.
Apparently so. Yeah, you'd think I'd like to. Yeah, I'd like to find that gold if possible. But yeah, no, it's I guess it's the place to be, isn't it? I always had my sights on it from like the age of like 16. And yeah, I've been there for 5-6 years now. So yeah, lovely. Still like it, which is good.
So growing up in the house that you're in today, was it a musical house growing up?
No, my brother played guitar, but he was self-taught. So we never had any instruments around the house. And me and my sister went to dancing. So I've been on stage since I was like 3. And then I kind of got into acting at primary school, and I was like, oh, musical theatre. And so I only really discovered that I could sing when I was like 11, because I did Oliver at my primary school and I was Nancy. And then my parents kind of sat me for everyone, and I was like, okay. So I kind of got into singing, and then thought, well, I need to write songs if I'm going to be an artist. So I begged my parents to get me like a little Casio keyboard, and just like taught myself from YouTube tutorials and stuff. And like, I don't resent my parents for it or anything, but I've always said to them, like, I will make sure that my children grow up with instruments around the house, that if they want to pick it up, they can, and if they don't, that's fine, but at least it was there, because I wish that's something I'd had from an earlier age, because maybe I'd be like a better pianist or whatever. But no, it wasn't like, my parents aren't at all musical, especially my dad cannot sing a key. So yeah, no, there's nothing in my family, but I think I was just very, very dedicated to the cause, like growing up. So kind of made it happen.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to tell me, for track 3, the song that reminds you of your time at school, please, Grace.
Okay, so Lean on Me by Bill Withers. We used to do this in music class. I had the most eccentric music teacher, and I went to a grammar school, so actually music was not something that was pushed down our throats at all. And if anything, like we were kind of discouraged from taking it for GCSE and things like that. It was very like maths, English, science based school. So we had kind of this sort of eccentric music teacher that might put you off doing music. He used to make us sing this song, I think yearly, and everyone that I know that's been to this school like very much remembers this song and kind of associates doing music with this song. And I guess it was like just like choir, he'd get some people press the DJ button on the keyboard as you do. But yeah, no, Bill Withers, Lean on Me, that's the one.
Do you know what, it's a beautiful song, though.
It's great, I can't knock it. Like I feel nostalgic when I listen to it, but I don't turn it off. Like it's a great tune.
Did you enjoy school?
No, I didn't. And I don't know if that's because I'm just quite like a physical learner. Like as soon as I got to college and I was doing performance-based subjects and I wasn't sat behind a desk, I thrived. But also maybe it had something to do with the fact that I discovered I was quite like into music and performing, and I went to a grammar school, which was complete opposite.
Yeah.
But no, I despised it, to be honest. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about playing Nancy at a young age and being involved in sort of dancing and things like that. Was you a confident kid?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely like a big dreamer and not afraid of that. So I guess that's confidence. Like I would upload singing videos to YouTube at like 13, and everyone would make fun of me at school, and like I'd go into a classroom and they'd have them on the big projectors, like taking the mick out of me. But I didn't care. So I guess that is a confidence in that, like, yeah, I did what I wanted to do and loved it. So yeah, I think you have to have a confidence as well to kind of do that stuff and to be on stage in front of people.
Was there any other sort of considerations through them sort of formative years as to what you wanted to do, when you left school, or was it always going to be the arts?
It was always going to be the arts. I think, to be honest, I always pictured myself on the West End. Like until kind of singing took the forefront out of the three, like dancing, acting and singing. It was about 14 when I discovered I was more into the singing thing. I always thought that I would be on the West End. But no, I always say this, like if I ever dip out of the music industry, I have no idea what I will do, because this was always just like plan A and there was never a plan B. Like I don't actually know how to do anything else. Yeah. So yeah, no, it was always going to be this.
Tell me a little bit about the fact that, being where you was and not being in London, did it feel like it was possible to get the success that you was looking for up there, or did you feel that it was important to relocate to the capital to kind of, was there more opportunity there? I don't know. Like, tell me the pressure that you put on yourself to move. Because the reason I asked this, Grace, when I set this podcast up, it was initially going to be based around people's location and people that lived in certain areas. Why? Because I only live on the cusp of London in Essex. So many people that I know that have been successful in the arts that live in Essex constantly get asked, like, "Oh, you're going to move to London?" I'm like, why? And I just always am intrigued because, and the further you get away from London, it feels like the pool is larger to come to London to kind of get them opportunities. And so, yeah, I just want to know a little bit about how you came to come to London and how much pressure you sort of felt there was on you to relocate to kind of find opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from a very like small kind of villagey area, and I, growing up from like the age of 15, did weddings in every sort of venue around here and like sang in every pub, and I kind of exhausted the very small live scene that there is around here. And so when I was like 17, I like recorded an EP and sort of went on BBC Introducing and climbed up that ladder as far as I could round in the Lancashire BBC Introducing scene. And then I was just like, there's literally nothing that I can do around here. And I think it's such a daunting thing going to London, because like I had a name for myself, be it a wedding singer or a pub singer or the girl that released her own songs from down the road. At least people knew who I was. And when you go to London, you are a tiny fish in a massive pond of people who are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But there are zero producers around here, zero songwriters, no managers, no labels. And I grew up being told that Blackburn had like such a great music scene in the 70s, and like this was like the place, and King George's Hall, like the Beatles performed there. And I was like, well, why is that not anymore? Because there's nothing now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I tried as long as I could, because I do love it up here. But yeah, it just wasn't possible. And as soon as I moved down, just every opportunity started coming my way. I mean, you got to work for it, because like I said, everyone's trying to do the same thing.
Cool.
But it gives you so much more.
Okay. Tell me the first song you bought from a record store.
So my first single was Sound of the Underground by Girls Aloud, which literally still to this day sounds so current.
It's
and
so good.
So good. It's so good that you're like, oh, here we go. And I had like a karaoke machine in my bedroom growing up with like a screen on it, and I used to put my CD in the top of it. And I think in the intro, the music like phases in and out, like the volume phases, but I used to do it myself on the volume, spin the dial. And I loved it so much. But I mean, Girls Aloud were, yeah.
Is there
everything when I was growing?
Is it your internet's glitching a little bit, Grace?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you're pausing a few times. I don't know if you've got anything else open on your screen. Like,
I don't. Let me.
It's only like momentary. It's fine, but
okay, sorry.
That's all right. I just think like I've got this thing right where everybody looks upon in the UK as the Spice Girls being this absolutely incredible girl band, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you break down their singles and you listen to their singles as a pop product, it don't get anywhere near as good as the singles of Girls Aloud. I think Girls Aloud had perfect pop songs. Like Biology is unreal. Is it called the Promise?
The Promise. The
Fucking
Promise.
hell, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's so good. And it was Sarah Harding that passed, wasn't it, a couple of years ago? And her voice is unreal, like so strong.
It's so good. And in that song in particular, the Promise, like, she's so good. But yeah, I mean, I'm a 97 baby, so I feel like I missed the Spice Girls by the time I like kind of really knew what music was. My sister was a Spice Girls fan, but I just, I never quite got it. Like, I understand it, but I would never put on the Spice Girls and listen to them. And it's just not for me. And I think Girls Aloud, like every song I had, every single album on CD, I had like their DVDs and like, I was just obsessed. Sugar Babes as well. Like it was just so good. Yeah.
There's a performance of The Promise, and I think they go back on the X Factor, or I think it was the X Factor then, and they perform it live for the first time. And there's a bit where I wouldn't say I'm a massive Girls Aloud fan, but for some reason I saw this performance and I've gone back and watched it a few times because it blew me away. And it really shows how good Sarah Harding's voice was.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit where she just hits this note that isn't in the single version, and it's unreal, like such a strong voice. And they looked great. And I don't know, considering it was a manufactured pop product, as you know, from a TV show, like they just took it to a different level. And I think whoever wrote those songs, and I presume it was a multitude of different songwriters, they knew their shit, because they were absolutely tip-top pop gems, weren't they?
Yeah, no, they were unreal. And like I said, I always say when I'm writing songs, like, I want it to be timeless. Like, I don't want to specifically cater to what's in right now.
Yeah.
And I think with Girls Aloud, like every song you could play it at any decade and it would still sound
100%.
so good.
100%.
So good.
So I want to ask you, before we get on to the next track, you mentioned moving to London and being a small fish in a very big pond.
Mm-hmm.
You've told me that you was quite a confident young person. Tell me about Drive. How driven are you?
Incredibly. And I don't know if that's because of the stick that I got for dreaming big when I was younger. I remember being in college, actually, when I was 18, we were about to leave and they were sort of asking us about like applying like UCAS and what uni are you going to? And I was like, I'm not going. I'm going to do music. I'm going to be a singer. And the woman literally scoffed and was like, are you sure? Do you not want to think of something a bit more realistic? And that really stuck with me from like being 18 to now. But I think, just even like the kids sort of at school, sorry, my cat downstairs is yelling. But the kids at school just sort of like making fun of me for having big dreams, and also going to a grammar school where everyone was so academic and I was like the bottom of the class all the time because I just didn't care. I had to do well, and I had to be driven to prove myself, and also because I didn't have that plan B. But my dad is like the hardest worker I've ever met, and I've watched him growing up leave the house at 5 o'clock in the morning and then sit all night at his laptop working. And he gave me everything that I could want to start off my career, and like could not have been more supportive. And he was like my roadie and would drag my keyboard across Manchester when I was doing gigs and stuff when I was younger. So I think like there's also that thing of like I owe it to my parents who like gave me that start, and I was so lucky to have that and be so supported in an industry which doesn't financially give you a lot unless you're huge. So I think it was that. And I've also got to this point now at 25 where I'm like, I've come this far, I need to keep grafting, and I need to be a hard worker in order to get it, because I've not done all this work for nothing. So yeah.
Lovely. So at 25, you should still be going out. So for track 5, tell me the song that soundtrack your year's clubbing, Grace.
Yeah, you say that. I think I'm an old person in a young person's body, because I'm very much in my grandma era at the moment. But I when I used to go clubbing, it was "If You're Gonna Say Something, Say It Now," that Karen Harding song, and I think it was a remix of it, Zach Samuel or something like that. And it was everywhere. Like when I first turned, I think it was before I turned 18, actually, I was using like my friends' IDs to get into places, and it was just everywhere. But it was like you would go to a different bar or a different club in that same night, and it would be like the first song that was on. Like it was every hour, every club, every day. Like that song was everywhere. And I think it just took over. Like if I was ever driving to college with my friends, that was what we would play in the car. And yeah, it was I think when I think about clubbing, that's the song that really sticks in my head.
So you peaked, your club life peaked at 17, and now you've retired at 25.
I know. I don't know what it was. Do you know, I think because I sort of started working when I was 15, 16. So I used to sing in like a fine dining restaurant every Friday, and I'd do jazz. And then on a Saturday night, I'd be either singing at someone's wedding or singing at a pub. So I kind of missed those like early years of going out to a pub or going out to a club with my friends. And then when all my friends went to uni, I was like moving down to London and doing the music and going on a TV show. So I feel like I never properly got into like clubbing. And then suddenly I was like, yeah, I'll just like have a games night with my friends and like stick to Pepsi Max. Like how boring, but yeah, I don't know, like a night in with my piano sounds way more appealing. Is that really, really bad?
Love it. Right. Tell me a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please, Grace.
My home county?
Not country. You've done it as well, haven't you? It's all right. You're with about another 400 guests on this podcast that have gone, county, I thought it was country. It's fine, don't worry. I need to put county in big block capitals, don't I, on the email?
I'm so sorry, I missed that completely.
You've already basically said there ain't a lot happening in your hometown, hence you went to London. But talk about, if we're going to go country, what did you have?
So I think my favourite song, and I always call this like my desert island song, if I had one song for the rest of my days, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, Murder on the Dance Floor, will never not put me in a good mood. So yeah, absolutely love it. But I think like a song that I just see as like pure genius and love is Coloratura by Coldplay. And it's actually off their new album, and I have loved them for many, many years, but it's like a 10-minute track, and every single element of it is like mind-blowing and just like transports me somewhere else. So again, there's two answers. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. There's two good answers there. And the thing is, what's interesting about that Coldplay track kind of goes back to track 1, that, you know, unless you get to the levels of Coldplay and Adele. You go to the record company with a 10-minute song, they're like, seriously, bin that off, like edit that. And it's like Coldplay have got that artistic license where people love that band so much. It's like, we can do that. It must be lovely in, you know, because 20 years ago, most bands could do that. But in this day and age, it's, you know, you're hard pushed to get away with a 10-minute track. But yeah, it must be lovely to have the freedom of Coldplay to just go, yeah, we can do what we want. And the record label are never going to say no because we're Coldplay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like kind of the appeal of being an independent artist is like, I can do those little interludes if I want to, because no one's telling me I can't. But yeah, you're so right. You have to get to that stage where, you know, people are going to listen and they are going to get to the end of it because they love you anyway. But yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it's
so
good.
Good.
That is, it really is. Okay, last track, Grace, and you get to be a tastemaker or influencer. Track 7 is a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to hear, please.
Yeah, so the song I picked is from an artist called Ray, and many people know her from her features, but because she does a lot of dance records and stuff, but she is the most incredible artist in her own right, and she has been going for such a long time. Used to be signed to Polydor, got signed when she was 14. And this song is actually, I think, off either her first or second EP, so really early days, and it's called Shush, SHSH, and it's actual genius for a girl that I think was about 17 at the time. It kind of transposes in the middle of the song, like it shifts up keys constantly, and lyrically it's just like a masterpiece. She's criminally underrated as a solo artist, and I would say is probably my favorite artist of all time. But that song, like, it should be worldwide massive hit. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's incredible.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, what we do, Grace, is we put together a Spotify playlist to accompany the podcast, so people can go and listen to Ray's track and everything else that we've spoken about today, and obviously some of your music, which brings us on nicely to me saying, what's happening with you?
What's happening with me? Well, I'm dropping an EP on October the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my third EP, second EP independently. So yeah, I was filming the music video like 2 days ago for the Focus track. So very excited about that. Just on my first headline show, and now it's given me, like, pardon my French, but a boner for live music. So
lovely.
I'm very excited about doing more of that. And yeah, just getting more tunes out there. I've done 2 singles so far this year, and then there's 3 dropping on EP release day. So yeah, I'm very excited. It's busy, but it's good.
And Grace, if people want to keep up to speed with you and find out about other live shows and releases and such, where's the best place to keep up to speed with all things Grace Davies?
So my Instagram is probably the best place, which is Grace Davies Official, and then Twitter, Grace Davies. I mean, if you just type my name in, I'm most places, but yeah, they're the 2.
Wonderful. Grace, if it's all right with you, when this episode comes out, we'll tag you in it so people can find you nice and easy if they haven't done already.
That's absolutely fine. Thank you.
Grace, I've had a right blast talking to you today. It's been really lovely.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I'm going to press stop. Don't go anywhere.
Cool.